Many years ago, in the foregone era of the PS2, I bought a little game called Final Fantasy XII. Coming off the huge hit that was 10, and set in the lore-rich world of Ivalice, I was pretty amped for this next entry in the mainline series. See, I was heavily invested in Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced at the time, and when I heard we were going back to Ivalice in 3D, I was like, yes, give me Banka, give me Numo, give me Vieira and Mughals and all of that. You got it, I want it, take my money now! However, as I started to play it, I quickly found myself becoming bored and disinterested. Nothing about the game really hooked me. Not the characters, not the battle system, not even the story. It all just felt a bit off. Too much of a departure from the RPGs I was used to. And I concluded that the reason I didn't like 12 was because it felt too much like an MMO. Stand there and watch as character and enemy hit each other. Slowly. Boring. But after playing 14 for an embarrassing amount of time this past year, and grown more accustomed to MMO combat and feel, I felt like maybe it was time. Maybe I'm ready to give 12 another shot. Those 14 alliance raids got me all hot and bothered for Ivalice, and I needs my fix something fierce. So here I am, once again, standing at the edge of the world, ready to jump off and fall on my face as I explore the world of Final Fantasy XII. Welcome to 12, where Lucaviar summons our airships, and the story is pulled straight out of Star Wars. 12 is one of the most bizarre RPGs I've ever played, with systems and mechanics seemingly at odds with player fun and enjoyment. I think about my 55 hours with this game, and I imagine myself at a buffet, where I have a wide variety of courses available to me, but as is customary with buffets, none of them are done exceptionally well. That's not to say they're bad, they're decent and serviceable enough, but they don't feel completely developed. The bones are there, but where's the meat? Case in point is with the characters. A lot of the characters have arcs that feel stunted, a bit unfulfilling. Characters don't really change, they don't grow. When big drops happen, it doesn't really go anywhere. The other party members don't say anything or confront them, they hardly react. Imagine telling your friend your deepest, darkest secret, something you don't want anyone to know, and they respond with, "That's nice," before going back to doing what they were doing. That's kind of what it feels like at times. Even during big narrative confrontations, resolutions fall flat. They don't hit like you'd expect them to, almost as if there's something missing or something was cut. Where's the back and forth? Where's the emotion, the struggle, and internal conflict? We needed more scenes, more lines, and more time to really dig deep into these characters and understand their values, ideals, and motivations. Like, why are Van and Pinello even here? What do they want? Why do they want it? What drives them and helps them push through the tough times? They say they want to protect their home, but have they ever shown any deep affection for Dalmasca or its people? The same motivation issues plagues the villains as well. We kind of get this idea of what it is they want, why they go about doing what they do, but why did they even want that in the first place? What was the catalyst or defining moment that set them down this path? We're never given an answer, and as a result, the villains feel shallow, they lack depth and nuance. And that's a real shame because they have such a commanding presence that makes you want to know more about them. I mean, look how cool and menacing the judges are. What's their goal? What do they believe in? Why did they become a judge, and are those suits custom fit? Asking for a friend. Sadly, it's never really explored or fleshed out. We're only given a few crumbs and left to ask, but why? As cool and as interesting as most of the cast first appear to be they good guy or bad, most ultimately end up feeling a bit light and underdeveloped. Who they are before the journey and who they are at journey's end, pretty much the same. There just isn't enough there to make them truly compelling, to sink your teeth into and keep you invested. talking about the systems in 12, one word comes to mind: experimental. Or at least that's how it feels like from my perspective. 12 features some interesting new systems like autoplay, treasure chest RNG, and crafting by way of the bazaar, where you oversell loot, waste precious resources, and cry as you grind for more rare mats. As I mentioned earlier, these seem at odds with long-term player fun and enjoyment. Like, why would you want to make the gameplay itself? Wouldn't that make the experience boring? Why are chest drops RNG? Did they do it to pad out the game? And why is the crafting system so finicky and particular? It makes you wonder what their goal was in building and implementing some of these systems. What was their vision for the player experience? Did we as players optimize the fun out of it? Or did they simply want to try something new? For example, let's take a look at gambits. I'ma say it right now, gambits are undercooked. Yes, we're continuing with the food and cooking analogy. Now, I first want to say that I think this is a really interesting system. Back when I was a snot-nosed kid, I couldn't figure out how the hell to get my gambits to work properly, and I pretty much ignored them. But this time, I'm older, smarter, and have some basic understanding of coding. So I was determined to make this system work and use it to its potential. Constructing a set of if-then conditions to get your team to autoplay the game for you is an intriguing puzzle that evolves with you as you play through the game. Gradually tinkering and perfecting your set to account for more and more possibilities is actually quite fun, and seeing your team execute like the well-oiled machine that you programmed them to be fills you with a sense of pride and satisfaction. Until you discover that the triggers you want aren't actually in the game. Frustrating, especially since you only really use like 10% of the total available gambits. Like, when am I going to use this? Target any on-screen foe if character has the blind status. What would I even do with this? I have no idea, but it sounds extremely situational. Where's my 2 or more allies lower than 60% health gambit? Or ally has any negative side effect gambit? Enemy equals immune to magic gambit, or any gambit dedicated for stealing. You know, that important technique for getting the loot to make the best gear in the game? I have to set up this really jank enemy equals 100% health, therefore steal, which often results in Balthier wasting actions using steal multiple times on the same target when the team is being crowded by enemies. Even though we're given all these options, the gambit system somehow feels limited and constricting. I can't really get it to do the things I want, and that can feel irritating. In this way, it feels incomplete, a system not fully realized and developed. But I know that if they did give me what I wanted, then once the puzzle was solved, combat would become pointless. You'd pretty much have the game on autopilot as you simply pushed forward to win. Which, for the most part, it already is, let's be honest. Obviously, they tried to strike a balance here to preserve the gameplay aspects of the game, but I can't deny how I feel a part of me is still left wanting. While most of the systems I felt mid or apathetic about, one system I really enjoyed was the license board. For people who like opening presents, for people who are completionists, the license board will be one of the more exciting and more enticing aspects of your playthrough. Look at all these boxes. Don't you want to open them all? I want to open them all, right now. Planning out how to efficiently use your license points to get the most bang for your buck is super engaging, to the point where you'll actually want to run around grinding overworld mobs. Yes, grinding mobs equals fun and engaging content, especially with the fast forward feature. Oh, thank God Square Enix included this. Can you imagine how tedious this game would feel without it? Have you seen how slow everything is in normal time? Big oof. Big oof. But back to the boards. I really like how focused the job boards are. In the original, it was more difficult and a bit overwhelming to plan out your characters without using a guide, since each character had access to everything and you couldn't scroll over a box to know what was inside. Opening a box was risky because you might end up going in the wrong direction, wasting points on licenses you didn't need because you didn't know what was where. Buyer's remorse? Big. But TZA throws all of those negatives out and focuses you into builds for specific classes, with each character picking 2 boards. You can cursor over and get a sneak peek at what's in store, and this makes for better planning and a better progression system overall. I loved going in, juicing my team by buying big impact licenses and seeing them absolutely destroy mobs. Also, the act of unlocking the licenses themselves becomes an addicting gameplay loop. You open one box and, oh look, now you have a few more dangling in front of your nose. I mean, we could stop there for the night, or we can kill 20 more wolves and boost our attack power again. Yeah, let's go and destroy the ecosystem by wiping out the local fauna. And so the cycle goes on until you've overpowered and overleveled yourself, removing all challenge from the game. But I mean, who can resist? Not I. You can see that even the more engaging systems and loops, like the license board, introduce this kind of back and forth tug of war, or maybe a seesaw between player enjoyment and breaking the game. If you continue to do the thing that is fun, enjoyment in other aspects of the game is ruined. The only way around this is to have both sides be balanced. But in doing so, neither ends up feeling particularly good or outstanding. It's kind of a no-win situation, which is why it comes off feeling odd and experimental. Ivalice is such a fascinating world. Its history, long, its lore, engrossing. You see a lighthouse set at the edge of the world and you think, what madman built this, and why? One of the biggest draws of this game is the world and setting itself. Just seeing the name of one of its many locations evokes within you this feeling of history, of importance, of mystery and wonder. What is this place? What happened here? What stories lie just beneath the surface? The people want to know. In previous games, we only got to explore a fraction of Ivalice, normally just one battle map per location. But in 12, we get to see it all. Deserts, jungles, cities, ruins, the Giza Plains. We get to explore every inch of this beautiful world fully realized in 3D. And can I just take a second to say that these updated visuals look great. Amazing even. So clean, you can eat off Van's abs. That's what we call a big win. 12 does an amazing job of bringing this world to life, expanding the ways we get to explore and interact with Ivalice, as well as opening up greater opportunities for environmental storytelling. Majestic ruins and towering structures serve as a reminder of civilization's past, capturing the imagination and transporting us to the age of gods, myth, and legend. Hub towns each have a distinct culture and history, which is reflected through conversations with the local citizens, as well as the aesthetic design of its buildings and spaces. Wilderness locations are vast and varied, broken into a number of large zones, making the world feel expansive. It all works to create the foundation for which the story is built upon. Regarding the story itself, I can see there being 2 camps. Some people will really enjoy it for the war and political drama that unfolds. 12 reminds a lot of people of Star Wars, as you'll easily recognize similar scenes, visuals, and plot development, just with a Final Fantasy twist. Kingdom is occupied, save the princess, go with the charming rogue in his airship, have an adventure, defeat the Empire, yada yada. One could say it's a more grounded story, as the more mystical elements, things involving gods and the like, are downplayed. They're there, but they take a side or supporting role. And because of that, some people will connect easily with it. Others will find the story middling and a bit lackluster. It's not bad, but it's not executed particularly well either. As mentioned earlier, there's a shortage of scenes that carry any sort of weight or emotional impact. Important themes like determinism, free will, and overcoming one's past feel glossed over when they should have been given more focus. The team moves quickly from one location to the next, one plot point to the next, until, all of a sudden, the last chapter of the game appears and smacks you in the face. Wait, did we skip some scenes? Because I have some questions about. No, this is it. We're at the end. Deal with it. I personally wish 12 leaned a little bit more into that mystical and fantastical side of Ivalice's lore. Tell me more about the Espers, tell me about the Mist, how did they come to be and what is their purpose? What about the Zodiacs, what's the deal with them? This is called the Zodiac Age, but barely any time is dedicated to telling us about them. If they could have found a way to weave these all together, if they could have had more presence or been more involved, I feel like we could have had something great. Unfortunately for me, they just serve as a reminder of lost potential. There's a question that's been rolling around in my mind lately. Is it really worth it to go back and play old games? And the reason I ask this is because I'm often aware of the friction I'm likely to feel time hopping backwards, having gotten used to modern games and game design. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Things that didn't bother us back when we were kids are now likely to be the annoyances and roadblocks that can cause us to quit playing a title altogether. Some games can withstand the test of time. Something about it, whether it be the story, setting, or gameplay, elevates it to the point where we don't mind trudging through outdated visuals or systems because it's worth it, because it's just that good. These games earn the title of classic and are often looked upon fondly. Anything that doesn't fall in this video game Hall of Fame, well, it becomes a bit more complicated, especially when you're trying to decide how to spend your precious free time. For me, 12 falls into the latter of the two. It almost feels like I had to pull myself across the finish line. I think about the combat and systems and I'm like, I think about the effort I'd have to put into tracking down gear to fight optional bosses, and I'm like, meh, pass. I think about the story and characters and I'm like, yes, they exist. They're fine, I guess. Am I glad I went back and played this game? If I could go back a few months and talk to my past self, I would probably say something like, you're not really missing much. You should probably just read the wiki instead.